most of it is hybrid, right? It's for custom and commercial. So it depends on the use case specific, right? If you get something like or there are some tooling framework very mature and it has, I think, the way we see mostly from the services perspective, what I've been observing is that over the long term, it's always going to be a hybrid. It's not one or the other. It's going to be hybrid, but then trying to fit the model to your needs and then evaluating continuous refinement and course correction. Right? So you may go custom route, but a year later, based on your stack, your business needs, there may be a new one that picks up. But how do you adapt to it? Right? And to extend to what CDO was saying earlier, that and the core of the discussion is the challenge that we're going to run into is you have all these LLMs, Claude, OpenAI, Gemini, Llama, models, and even each of these you have several variations, and one works best for certain use cases and the others. Right? So the challenge is going to be traditionally we all have come from the data background where you have like one data warehouse or one database to work with. Now you have multiple models. You're going to this multimodal, and even within that multimodal, you have different versions. Right? How do you evaluate? Right? You have to be very conscious and aware of which model you're going to take. One you're going to take. There should be a test in that. I don't think the organization will be very, very challenging to take direction on the model. It has to be a specific approach. Something like Gartner, they have a specific industry focused approach to finance has a specific learning or all methods. This is about what this model.
Yeah, I wonder whether,
from your discussion, that, the applications you build, right, that's strictly agnostic to what the underlying LLMs are, right? Is that the thing that you guys, is that the way the industry is doing?
So you have the model fit, but then which LLM and which version of it, right? If I'm picking OpenAI versus Llama, right? For example, Facebook has this name for profit algorithm, right? But for your use case, you may have a very good outcome with profit algorithm and the specific Llama based on particular doing some prediction. But the same may not work for Anthropic and Cloud, right? So you have to evaluate which one. You cannot test, or you cannot go and build your thing on everything, right? But how do you make that earlier decision? Right? I have the 6 choices, but I'm going to try these 2, and then spend time, but not a year, right? But how am I going to course correct over the period of next 2 or 3 months? Test these 3, and then pick one to deploy, right?
So, how about workflow orchestration? You guys discussed anything on one of the approaches?
So when you say workflow orchestration, you mean both the internal, there's an internal process within the IT or the departments, and the other one is the business workflows. So the way I see it is there will be 2 aspects anytime. One is the customer facing one, where the workflows are very well defined and have to be accurate. Yes, they can improve over time, should improve over time, but the accuracy with which it should work is much higher as compared to, let's say, the internal workflows, because one of the things we also discuss is that internal workflow and fine-tuning of that can be used to also change the culture, the mindset, because one of the most difficult things about any AI or any new shining object is about the cultural change. So if we start with the internal workflows and fine-tune it in a way that we are prepared as an organization to handle the external. Doesn't mean that the external should be sacrificed, but it should be very ROI oriented. So that's how I approach it.
Super. Yeah, that's all the time we have for most of the So yeah, tech space is evolving. It's the best I can summarize it, right? And no easy answer in terms of which element to pick yet, and we summarize pretty well in terms of
I'm really looking forward for some forum, like, or to actually create a forum to have these as a common to learn. That's a major gap that I see.
This is good discussion, right? Because, awesome. Yeah, that's all we have time. Thank you all for responding.
Thank you.
Okay, the last one ROI.
Okay. Hi everybody, my name is Trey Connolly. I'm a VP of Analytics with Digitas. We're a full-service advertising agency out of Boston, Massachusetts.
Again, Arjun Srinivasan. I've already made my intro, so I'll pass the baton.
Hello everyone, my name is Balaji Damodar. I lead the data and analytics team at AMD, semiconductor manufacturing, based out of Austin, Texas.
Which one?
So we're group 5 and 6, and our topic was AI investments and ROI. And the first question that we had as a group was, where is your company focusing its AI investments? We talked about this in detail. There's a number of avenues that we would make sure to fund investment in. Number one being technology, also talent, and then governance as well. But we really focused on talking about governance and what that looks like. It's very important within any organization to have an analytics maturity assessment, and that should align overall with your data strategy. We also said that we would invest in data literacy and education, understanding how we're going to utilize AI within the organization, and then to deploy this, we would have a POC, a pilot, and then we would go to production. And throughout this process, we would track our KPIs, so measuring efficiency gains, revenue uplift, cost savings, and customer satisfaction.
Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, better.
All right, I'll read the next question and kind of go through what we discuss on that. So along the same lines, we started discussing what's the percentage of our tech budget that is allocated to AI. This is a little bit of a tricky question because the way it started, it depends on the communicated impact, and it's very much of a chicken and an egg situation because you got to show the ROI, so to get the budget, but then to show the ROI, you have to get the budget, right? But that being said, I think we had some uniformity across the table that about 5 to 10%, 10% max. But it also varies by industry. So we had SaaS product companies, we had manufacturing companies, we had healthcare, banks. But I think 5 to 10% seems to be a reasonable target in terms of the budget they are allocating. I think a few good points to note there is that it's not a direct spend, like there is a lot more indirect spend, and we talked about AI readiness when we talked about AI first. So a lot of companies are allocating more than that 5 to 10% to be AI ready, right? Depending on your analytics maturity or their analytics maturity within the enterprise. The budgets are coming from these non-AI tools, whether that is infrastructure or data platforms or analytics tools, and these all will kind of help, they all will be some cost when AI comes and sits on top of it. So that's happening, and it was encouraging to hear, like that uniformity across the table as well. And then the last we said that the technology budgets are not coming in as much as one would hope or expect for AI, but the business budgets are coming in. And I can speak from my own lens. In my company, I have a build-focused teams, and I also sit on governance board for SaaS products for AI, and I'm seeing a lot more SaaS products for AI come in than budget that I get for my build-focused team. And these are driven by business. So I think like that is happening, and slowly once they reap the rewards, your build-focused teams will mature, and then if everybody will have that as a part of their DNA in the future.
So Arjun, just to ask, how is that? Is that federated or centralized? How does that budget split? Or do you have a lot of federated teams, or it's all centralized?
So that's a good point. It is both. Most of them are kind of centralized within the IT/digital part of the organization, but there's also federated ones. Like for instance, we sell products to. We have about 18 million SKUs that we sell through our e-commerce, and e-commerce is available for almost 60 countries. So we are looking at language translation tools for AI that is coming from the business, from the omni-channel. Right, so it really depends on the usage of the tool. If the tool is centric to a certain business or function, it is more centric to that function. Otherwise, kind of IT/digital bears the cost for now.
Yeah, in large enterprises, what I'm noticing is that there's this tussle between federated and centralized. Now, the governance is always pushing for things to be centralized because otherwise it's hard to manage that small, right? So, in large enterprises, that's so. Okay, third question.
Yeah. So the third question we had is, how can enterprises ensure strategic, coordinated AI investments rather than ad hoc projects, right? So one word answer that was given on the table is OKRs. Right? You need to know the OKRs, right? Basically the success metrics. What does it mean for your business? What are the priorities for your business in terms of strategic priorities, and so that you can make sure those investments make sense. I was listening to when Arjun was speaking earlier in the day. He mentioned there are hundreds of use cases, right? So it's the same thing for us as well. I mean, if you're doing AI, like the use cases, everybody wants a piece of the puzzle, right? Everybody wants to be there. But what is the real ROI? Is it part of your executive's agenda? Is that use case is part of your strategic objective, right? So those are the kind of questions as a central AI excellence team we generally ask. We prioritize, we take that metrics back. And another important aspect of that is the executive sponsorship, right? You need to vouch for teams for you to say, okay, this is a strategic priority. Here is where the value lies for us, and if you execute it, here is why. It could be tangible, it could be intangible, it doesn't matter, right? But there has to be a strong presence of what your team is working on, a strong value for what your team is bringing back to the business. So, some of the points that the team that we did discuss about is obviously objectives. That's what I was mentioning about. What are your objectives? Why are you doing that? And what are your key results? What is that you're trying as a business to achieve so that you can go back and add value to the business? Of course, measure progress. Is how long are you talking about, right? This project is 1 quarter, 5 quarters, 10 quarters. Like, how can you measure, have a feedback to the business? And of course, you want to track your KPIs after you either go on production. How can you make sure that it's actually really what you said, X amount of dollars that you're going to bring back to the company? Is it really bringing back that value, right? You should be able to go back and track the progress. So depending on that, that's how enterprises can ensure a more strategic way of bringing in value than just doing a few, like a cookie cutter projects and trying to show value. It's always a hard sell to the business.
This is one area I kind of struggle with a little bit in terms of quantifying ROI, right? In the traditional ML space, which the space is evolving to, we kind of knew how to measure, there are 2 levels, right? There's model accuracy, you can maybe testing measure that, right? If it's fraud, you worked on a certain way, going after fraud, you caught 5 out of 10, with the model, I'm catching 7 out of 10. It's clear ROI, right? And you can kind of assign each fraud case, how much was that cost? And same thing for all the other CRM applications, right? In Gen AI, you know, I guess productivity improvements is one ROI, but you know, like model accuracy, right? You know, I don't know whether that's socialized that like in traditional ML or like you know driven or you know it's much better understood in the ML space, right? You can track features are moving away, you know, model performance is dropping. So yeah, in general, this ROI thing is like when somebody summarizes a document or complaint. I'm taking use cases from my case. Like people are calling in for complaints, you want to summarize it, give it to an agent. You know, what's ROI? You know, it's kind of hard to measure that. So yeah, if you want to add a little bit more color on what I'm talking about.
No, like you got a good point. So internally, we are building our own Copilot agents for our back office functions. And one of those cases is deployed, and it's kind of in that pilot phase. Now, when you compare that to the Microsoft Copilots, because like this was part of the discussion in our table as well, there is no way to measure the impact of that. Like for instance, if your team in your enterprise is empowered to use Copilot, the Office Copilot or Copilot Studio, yes, at the back end that's a graph database where the responses get stored. But then there is no way for the enterprise, like say your IT, data science, AI teams to track that. When we build our own custom Copilots internally, what we are doing is we are building that observability pipeline where we are taking ground truth data set and then feeding that in. So we have our own evaluation kernel, right? And where it is all NLP based metric. So you can use Blue and Roach and those scores to come up with that evaluation metric. But we are not only doing that, we are asking the users to give feedback, not just thumbs up, thumbs down. Say if the legal team goes and does research and then they save $800 or $1,000 of not having to use a third-party legal company, we're asking them to enter that as a feedback, and we are doing data mining in that observability pipeline. Like it is as simple as a Postgres database in the backend. You can scan through it, and we are doing that as you know, like right now as we speak, to quantify that impact. We are not there yet. I'll be honest with you all, but we all need to think about those kind of out-of-the-box approaches.
Got it. No, there's a lot to do in this ROI measurement space. I think it's yeah. Thank you all. You know that's yeah, 1 o'clock. So perfect.
Thank you.
I love how we added 3 additional panel sessions at the very end. So
This is a fantastic discussion. You know, that was the purpose for all of us to kind of interact a little closer. A lot of interesting insights, and will be good to track next year where we are relative to this. Right? Awesome. Thank you all so much.
thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, that is a wrap for CDO Vision Dallas. It's been a great day full of insights. We made some new connections, learned a little bit. You still have time to network because right after this, we are about to go to lunch. But before we do that, I'm going to ask everyone, if you would, please stand, go to the back of the room. We're going to take a group photo really, really quickly. So if you taller people in the back, shorter people in the front, we're going to do this right in this space that's right back here. We're going to take a quick photo, and then lunch is going to be served.